Welcome everyone to the Up Convergence, Unity and Peace. I'm Noelle Marshall with the Co-Creators Convergence broadcast, and we have a very special guest today, Michael Reccia. And Michael is a trans medium who was brought through the Joseph Communications, a series of 8 books that really can tell you about the whole spiritual development, your whole spiritual development, who you are, what you are, and where we all can go together, should we choose. But at this point, we are at a choice point. And so without any further ado, Michael, this is going to be a time all week we have been broadcasting about your books, and we have been talking about them, and we've also played the 3 vital gifts from the afterlife to let people know how things where we are and how urgent the message is now. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put this in gallery view for right now, so you can see some of our friends are here. But this is a time where, Michael, maybe just give for those who are just tuning in who didn't get all of our fabulous broadcasts that we did throughout the week, maybe you could just give a little background on the Joseph Communications, and then we'd like to open up for some questions, comments. I mean, it's such a treat to have you here live.
That's very kind, Noel.
Because we've got to do all those recordings together, but it's not too often that everyone gets to be able to speak with you. And so, and I say speak with you, but I also say speak with the whole soul group. Before we got on this call, I made sure that Joseph, the big Indian,
my goodness,
Silver Star, I said, come on and help us with this broadcast so we can really reach a lot of people. So Michael, let me see, you're unmuted, and go ahead if you'd like to give a welcome yourself. And
yes, hello everybody. It's terrific to see you all. The Joseph Communications, as you may or may not know, are a series of 8 books dictated for the most part by a discarnate ancient spirit called Joseph on behalf of himself and his soul group, because the message that they are bringing is so important to us at this time. The communications began about 14 years ago with the first book, Revelation, which concentrated on who and what we really are. A second book, Illumination, told us what we can do about things. The third book, Your Life After Death, is exactly that. It's a travelogue of the afterlife. And then we were presented with The Fall, which in my view is the most relevant book at this time, because The Fall discusses what went wrong so long ago and the repeating pattern that we have that we can't get out of unless we embrace our spirituality, unless we reunite with what we really are and with each other, and can therefore change the world. Other books followed, From Here to Infinity, which is a trip from where we are now to where we will eventually go to as the angelic beings that we really are. And The Spaces Between, which, as I think you've been talking about earlier, Noel, is a book that describes the other forms of life that we coexist with, the spiritual forms of life that we coexist with unseen on the earth, and that we should have respect for, but have forgotten about. Final 2 books, Transmission, which is a compendium of the trance demonstrations, the live trance demonstrations we put together at the beginning to prove that we weren't away with a typewriter somewhere, that shows my age, a typewriter, away in a room with a typewriter somewhere, making all this up. We wanted to take Joseph on the road, as it were, to prove that there was a spirit coming through with an urgent message for mankind. And the final book, Many Voices, One Mission, is a collection of the addresses and lectures that have been given to us over the years by many other members of the Soul Group. And it's a very loving, a warm and comforting book that addresses our spirituality, addresses the state of the world, and gives us an anchor in these troubled times, somewhere we can turn to, and that somewhere is in here. So I think that sums up the 8 books, Noel, would you say?
Indeed, Michael, very well. You know, you're getting pretty good at this.
It's the endless talk.
Well, I'm going to ask everyone to turn on your video if at all possible, so Michael doesn't and I don't feel like we're talking to ourselves, because we've been doing that a lot. So
Yes.
if it's possible, go ahead and start your video. And this is what we're going to do. If you would like to ask Michael a question or make a comment on what these books have meant in your life, you can put it in the chat, or if you know how to use the reactions buttons down below, you can raise the hand so we would know to call on you. But if you have your video on, you could just wave at me and I'd be able to see you. So that's kind of how we're going to work it. So to begin, does anyone have anything that they would like to ask or share? And if you're really bashful, you can put it in the comments. And actually, when you put it in the comments, I find the questions are a lot more succinct, but but it's all good here. So, okay, I don't see anything yet. So, okay, Karen, go ahead yourself.
I mean, you do answer this question a lot in every book. When I have all the books, two rounds now, because I gave away the first set after meeting you after we were at the Parliament of World Religions. So I get this answer, yet it's probably my personal, as a very empathic soul, biggest challenge. And it's just the weight. I learned, I was reminded from you and Joseph Communications not to stay in the sorrow and the sadness, because that's then the vibration I'm contributing. So I sort of give myself my allotted weeping time. Yet that's probably even with all the light I'm offering out through meditation and joining your group and my own personal way, it still feels so overwhelming sometimes to think about the children being abused and the struggles. So that's my biggest area of looking for guidance.
Yes, it's difficult. And it's difficult if we are psychically aware, because the world is in such a strange position at the moment that we cannot help but pick up that twist in the general vibration. And that twist in the general vibration was something that I picked up for around a year before anything actually happened physically here. And so you pick up you've got your own emotional response to what's happening, but you're also picking up everyone else's. You're picking up those thought forms, you're picking up those clusters of thought that say, I'm alone, I'm helpless, I need comfort, I don't know what to do. We have to, as you say, bypass that. And we have to, in our light sending times, just visualize everything as being harmonious, balanced, infused with that spiritual light, and returned to an angelic normality. Not to a human normality, but to an angelic normality, which of course is what we really are. And that's where we started so long ago. It is difficult. We're in a difficult period. But unless we transmit the light, unless enough of us transmit the light, then the situations that we are in will pull us deeper into themselves. So we have to understand that, as Joseph says, and many members of the Soul Group have said, one person working for the light is the equal of 1,000 or thousands who are not yet working for the light. And so we are very powerful beings as the spirits we really are, because we are drawing on divine energy rather than finite field energy, rather than the finite energy of the field of human consciousness that we contribute to daily through our thoughts and beliefs. So it's an old maxim, but we have to keep on keeping on. And we have to, as much as we can, believe in that perfect spiritual world and reunification of everyone, and reunification of everyone with their spiritual selves. And then we make changes. Whenever we sit for the light, whether we are a single person or sat in a group, we make a difference. We just have to keep on making a difference until those souls who are lost in the fog and the soup of this world, of this life, reach inwards themselves and think, oh, wait a minute, I'm more than I appear to be. I am a spirit. And as a spirit, I need to react to this world and to my fellow beings on this world in a different way. And then we've won. And then each soul in turn reacts to that light, connects to those souls who are sitting for the light, and we change this world. And we change our perception back to a spiritual viewpoint, which is lacking at the moment. There is no, or practically no, spiritual perspective in anything that we're doing. We have to reintroduce that spiritual perspective. And we are tasked with doing that at this time. It's a crucial time. We have to work for the light as hard as we can and as often as we can at this time, because things hang in the balance. And we've got to make sure that they tip over on the side of light and not on the side of chaos. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're getting affirmative from Karen there.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay. Michael, I don't see any questions in the chat, but I am going to read just a little passage here from the fall. You are there, it's why you're here. So a lot of times when I'm talking with my quote, spiritual friends, they say, oh, I have to listen to the field. What does the field want? What does, that they we have to follow what the field wants. And in reading these books, I have a very different. I'm going to read just a little passage here from the fall. There are two agendas that are happening at the moment. There is the agenda of the spiritually enlightened, which is to draw people into a realization, once again, of who they are and who they were. And there is the agenda of the field, which is to control at all costs and to be fed at all costs by the energies that are produced from a dependence on the field. So have you ever heard of people talking about the field? And, it used to be, you would say, we created the field and now the field controls us. Can you speak about the field a little bit?
Yes, the field of human consciousness is a conscious entity. Our thoughts are living things. And if you imagine that the thoughts of millions, billions of people around this globe are poured out daily, then those thoughts cluster. And so the field is a reflection back at us of our dominant thoughts and dominant beliefs. But we key into that field. Joseph describes the field in one of the other books as a child that wants, a child that needs. And because it's set to negative, because of the way that we approach this world, it thinks that it needs more negative energy. And so it seeks to immerse us in the negative energy that perpetuates the state of affairs on Earth as they are now. We have to, field energy is finite. We are running out of energy within the field of human consciousness. Divine energy, however you want to describe the divine as he or she or it or source, however you want to relate to that creative force that flows through you, divine energy is limitless. Divine energy is pure in intent. It is spiritual in intent. And so we have to infuse the field, re-illuminate it with the energy that we find within our heart centers, with the energy that we all have access to, with the light energy that we all have access to, that we can stream into the world. And the light energy that chases away the shadows. The light energy resets in a good way. There's a lot of talk at the moment about resetting the world, but it's all head mind resetting. It's all approaching each of our problems from a head mind point of view and not acknowledging that we are more than head mind people. We are also heart mind people. We are spirits. We are angelic. We've just forgotten that. But we're pushing away half of what we are, the most important half of what we are. So we have to begin to draw energy from the heart to push that energy into the field, to reinfuse the field and to chase away the darker aspects of the field so that we create the harmony and the world that we all want.
Thank you, Michael. And we have a comment here from Layla, who I believe is one of your Joseph angels.
Yes, indeed. Hi, Layla. Very nice to see you. Hi.
And she says, after the fall, our only options after death are to stay in the healing spheres or come back to Earth. I always wondered if other worlds are an option, or are we tied to Earth until everyone is free from the effects of the fall?
Yeah, good question. Joseph describes the solar system and the Earth as an exclusion zone, because he was often asked in public trance demonstrations about other lives, about alien life, and why don't they visit us and are they here already? Well, his answer was that because of our vibration, there's a sort of intergalactic keep out sign until we get things sorted out. And so, yes, we can, as the angelic beings that we really are, we do visit other worlds. But in order to get back to that angelic state, we have to, following physical death, go through a number of spheres that traditionally are called heaven. But they are in fact cleansing spheres that are there as steps that lead us out of that constricting vibration that we surrounded ourselves with because of the fall. And as we go through the successive spheres, we eventually divest ourselves of all that is negative in our being, and then we can step out into infinity. Now, once we go through that metaphorical hatch into infinity, we are back with the angelic host. And the angelic host exists to create spheres of experience, to then visit those spheres of experience, to pass through them, much as we are passing through this life, and to gain further experience that they take back to the angelic host and to the Godhead, to evolve the whole of creation, which is a wonderful thing. And that's what other planets are about. We can't see that because we're looking through a glass darkly. But existence on other planets is to simply enjoy, pass through various experiences that have been set up by members of the angelic host. As a result of those experiences, to grow, to then remove ourselves from those planetary spheres to allow other angelic visitors in, and to take back our experiences to the angelic host and to the Godhead, which is glorious. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do, and to do that infinitely, and to do that in various scenarios that we can't even imagine at this point because we're locked in. We talk about lockdown, but we've locked ourselves down long before this year. And so, yes, there you can experience on other worlds, but you have to make the journey out of the conflicting vibrations that we've surrounded ourselves with in order to regain our angelic capability. And then off we go. We've sorted things out. There are no more problems. Does that make sense?
She's shaking. She's giving an affirmative on that. And Layla, if you want to unmute yourself and make a comment, go ahead.
That could take a really long time.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's all relative. But the cleansing spheres are beautiful. They are heaven worlds, but they are linked to this world. They're linked to this experience. Whereas in the normal course of things, we would visit a planet, as it were, experience a physical journey, but know all the time we would have that duality of knowledge that we were on a physical journey, but also that we were angelic beings. So there would be no fear of exiting that world via relinquishing the physical frame. In other words, we wouldn't be frightened of death because we would know that there is no death. There is simply the end to one journey, a return to family, angelic family, and then the beginning of countless other journeys.
Thank you, Michael. And I believe that Christian would like to.
Christian, hi.
Okay, I guess, yes. Go ahead and unmute and you may speak. Please. There he is.
Hey everybody.
Hi, Christian.
Hi, Michael.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you. It's it's lovely. I'm sitting here in my garden, and it's nice to feel you in the UK and feel you guys in the States. We are really a global group, and global energy is really needed. Yeah. No, I actually didn't want to ask a question, but as you ask me, you know, I have in some ways internalized quite a lot of the material of the books. I've actually listened to the whole thing, all the books at least twice, and I'm always like, impressed by the richness and the depth of everything. And I'm a bit schooled in esotericism, and I know what complexity is, and I really appreciate the simple complexity in it. It is such a natural, it's nearly organic, it all fits together, and I really, really love it. But on the other hand, I'm also very concerned about how to get that really going. And in some ways, one question I have, and maybe it's an odd question, I had one of my teachers said, reality is very big. Reality is big, and it can accommodate many systems.
Yes.
And in some ways, my question could be, if we believe in the fall, and if we believe in that field, are we not actually creating it and setting us up in it? And maybe if we wouldn't believe in it, and we would believe like other groups have a different vision of humanity and different vision of what's the evolution of humankind is, which doesn't contain a fall and a field, and which contains aliens and communications with other worlds.
Yes.
You know, how do we know that we actually don't lock us up by our believing in that system? You know, that's sometimes a question which came to me.
Yes, yes. I mean, you have to go in all the jewels of communications, in any communication from any spiritual source, you have to go to your heart. And you have to examine what's in those communications from the point of view of your heart. And if anything offends you, you have to throw it out. But if it resonates with you, then it is spiritual knowledge. Now, for me, being part of that group, it was a voyage of rediscovery. So within every book, having read the book finally, I didn't read them at the time because I was too busy out of my body and letting Joseph use the facility to bring through the messages. Having read the books, they resonate totally with me. Now, we don't, I think we have to have a look at what is wrong without acknowledging that it's wrong. In other words, we have to say there is room for improvement. We have to say there are certain situations that we acknowledge within ourselves from heart as perhaps not being the best for humankind. So we are only acknowledging them. If we don't acknowledge them, we cannot work to put them into a different state. So we acknowledge them, but we don't fixate on them. We say, yeah, this is what I believe happened. In my case, this is what I believe happened totally, and believe it from my heart rather than my head. And I know that the way to change things here is by reconnecting us with our spirituality. Now, that might mean different things for different people. Once they reconnect to their spirituality, they may have a different view of things. But if they are harmonious once they've reconnected to their spirituality, if they love all forms of life here once they've reconnected to their spirituality, if they care for the planet, if they seek not to control or to deceive, then it's the same message. However it's translated, it's the same message. So I can only say that from my point of view, I believe totally from in here in the fall story. But if it doesn't resonate with you, then there is still the option of bringing through the light to balance the world and to reunite people with their spiritual core, which is what we're all trying to do. There are movements around the world, different groups around the world, but with the same intent. So however we clothe it in words, it is the same intent. And the same intent is to bring through a reconnection to source that we have all but rejected as a society. And we continue to reject. And as a result of that, we have this discordant, chaotic, cruel, and unfeeling world. So the light is the answer to it all. Joseph is one vision, but it's a vision that, being part of that soul group, I totally believe it. But it's perfectly fine if somebody doesn't. But just keep sending the light.
Thank you, Christian. And he seems, he gave you a thumbs up on that.
Oh, good.
Very good.
I just wanted to add just something. The story resonates tremendously with me.
Yes.
It actually, when I first read the books, I had some kind of real, like an enlightenment. It was not alien to me at all, but things started to fit in and clicked and gave me quite a lot of energy and clarity. And that's why I took it so seriously, because it resonated so deeply in me. It was a recognition. It was a remembering. It was nearly a remembering.
Yeah.
And that's why, I get goosebumps when I say that, it's remembering. I really am very deeply in it. That's why I'm quite motivated to to challenging in some ways, to get it going in some ways, and also to question my own understanding. It's also a process.
Yes. Yes. Understood. It is a remembering. In the best use of the term, to remember, to bring together. We're bringing together that which we've forgotten, that which we've lost. And that's the reaction that we get from so many readers, that they do feel that they have remembered something. It is not new information. It is information that we all have at heart. It's just that we need that spark to start that process, as you say, of remembering and thinking, I know this. This makes perfect sense to me. I don't know how I know it, but it makes perfect sense, and I know what to do now.
Well, thank you, Christian, Michael, and our dear friend Sheila Blake, who you met. Now we're speaking about remembering. She says, I'm wondering about how we remember who we are. I believe it from hearing and reading, but it's not a whole body knowing. What is the experience of remembering like?
It is, I look at belief, and people say to me, I believe this. Now, to me, belief is something that you have to shore up. You have to visit belief from the head. And you have to say, how much do I believe in this? Is it 80%? Is it 100%? And very often we believe in things and then we think, well, do I quite believe in that? But we shore it up with energy. So we're saying, I believe this, I believe this, I won't stray from that. With spiritual remembering, it is a knowing. It's a knowledge. It's a feeling that permeates your being, that what you are experiencing, the spiritual concepts that you are absorbing, are something that you don't have to believe in because you acknowledge them. You already know them. They are a part of you. So it's a process of stripping away that which prevents you knowing. And it's in my life, that has been a graduated thing. When I first started working as a medium, it was a process of unlearning. It was a process by which certain aspects of society or certain aspects of my life on a Monday would make perfect sense to me, but on a Tuesday morning wouldn't. And I would have unrest until I had looked at alternatives and until I found an alternative that made sense to me. And it was like an unraveling. So the knowing is not so much a process of learning. It's a process of stripping away that which is between you and your greater self, that which prevents you gaining access to your greater self. So you will find that when you're on the spiritual path, you are quite naturally you lead yourself to situations that challenge you. And as a result of those situations, you strip away these confining bindings that prevent us from flowing as the spirits that we really are, our energy into ourselves and into this world. So it's a process of stripping things away. of chipping away, and of finding what we feel to be complete and absolute truth from within. And that's always my Geiger counter. Do I believe it from here? Not believe, sorry. Do I know it from here? If I know it from here, don't need to worry about it anymore. It's one aspect of my spirituality that I put in the bag. Now, what are the other aspects? What do I now have to learn? Does that sound okay? Does that make sense to you?
I'm getting affirmative on that. So Sheila has another question, and it's about the fall. Now, what does the Joseph's group think about the Big Bang Theory, or do they have the fall a completely different story?
No. In fact, we've made a decision, and this will interest you as well, Christian. With our YouTube channel, a few weeks ago, we asked people to read The Fall, not for us, but we said it was a very important book, and that we tried to urge people to read it. And we said, look, we don't make anything out of it ourselves. All the monies from the books go into publishing and furthering the books globally. And we didn't get much of a response. And we talked about this and said, look, this is such a vital time, such a crucial time, that we are going to read The Fall in installments on our YouTube channel. We're in effect going to read the whole book and hope that people will acknowledge what's in The Fall, because we believe it to be the most important book at this time, because it explains what went wrong. But the reason there's this long preamble is that in reading the first chapter, it explains the Big Bang. And it explains why there was a Big Bang, that there was a Big Bang, and how it was angelic intent given form to create a physical universe. In fact, divine intent given form to create a physical universe, one of many. So I have no conflict between a scientific view of the Big Bang and an angelic view of the Big Bang. They're the same thing, just looked at from a different perspective.
Excellent. And, we did this as a soul group. We did this as an experiment, that we thought this would be a greater way. We could take a shortcut, as it were to honor Creator. Is that accurate?
Yes, we felt that we had a way of creating. We had discovered a way of creating that would speed up the process of bringing back experience to the Creator, to the Source, to the Godhead. And we were involved in a debate we as a section of the angelic host, were then involved with a calm debate, not a battle, not a fight, but a calm debate with the rest of the angelic host. And we said, we have this way of creating and we think it's going to be great. And the rest of the angelic host said, no, it isn't going to be great. It won't work. And here's why. And this debate went on for, I don't know, millions of years as we measure time. And then we said, well, we think we're right, and we're going to do it anyway. And so we did do it anyway. And as a result, we moved this area of space out of step with the rest of creation. We forgot who we were. I mean, many people ask, why can't I access my spiritual memories? It's so cruel that I come here and I can't access my spiritual memories. The reason you can't access your spiritual memories is that once you get here, the vibration has been changed so that you forget, not by the Source, but by us millennia ago, as a result of that experiment that went wrong. And I think you can see in what's happening at the moment, that we have factions of people saying, we are right, despite evidence saying, perhaps you're not. We are right, and we will not turn, and we will not look at alternatives. And this is a result of the effects of the fall repeating themselves. We are right, we are right, we are right. Well, hang on a minute. Let's have that debate. Let's look at whether there is an alternative to your right. But it is a subconscious, it is at soul level, a subconscious imperative to keep that experiment going. And what the message of the Joseph communications is, we should let go of that need to be right and readdress our need to be spiritual. And once we let go of our need to be right all the time and not turn, Once we let go of that, we discover our spiritual core and we think, oh, there's more to this than I thought. There is a spiritual side. There is an angelic perspective. There is a divine perspective. And that changes everything. So that's what we're working to do by bringing the light in, because the light illuminates. We each have this sort of pilot light in our heart, the sort of thing that you would see in an old-fashioned cooker or something like that. We have a pilot light. In some people, it's a great flame. In others, it's just this tiny light at the moment. Light feeds light. So if we surround people with divine light, particularly those that we don't particularly like on a physical level, those that we see as being in charge of things and getting things wrong, we give that pilot light enough brilliance, enough luminance to grow to the point where it has to be heard. Where somebody on one day suddenly thinks, hang on a minute, something within me is telling me something different. And people never change by us saying to them, you must do this. They only change when they have a change of heart, when they have a change that comes from within. So the light fuels that pilot light, allows it to grow without judgment, without forcing it to grow. It can stay as it wants to if it wants to, but it is given the opportunity to grow via the light energy that we send out to the point where it becomes that still small voice that cannot be ignored. And that's when people change, that's when they reconnect to their spiritual selves, and that's where the world becomes a different place. Is that a sufficient answer?
That's a beautiful answer. And Karen, do you want to unmute? I just want to take a pause there because that was such a beautiful answer. I just want to breathe into that knowing. It just was. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. And I chose to sit outside so you guys could get this beautiful ocean energy here. Yeah. And what I discovered, Michael, with each and every book, which I just found 2 years ago, I guess, Noelle, you said, is that the Joseph communications, for me, and I believe can be for others, is like opening up this treasure box of truth. And each book is its own little treasure box of truth. And then you get, the whole set of the books. And I grew up Catholic. All years of school was Catholic. I was always in trouble as a child because I had my hand up a lot and I asked a lot of questions and I let them know I was very confused because what they were saying didn't seem true to what I was feeling that Jesus was telling us, that we're light and we can do what he did and more. And that got me in a bit of trouble when I was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. So then I started to, when I could think a little more for myself, explore other religions. But then there was still these constrictions. And literally when I found your books, I mean, Noelle knows, I just wept. And Christian, he said it so beautifully, the remembrance, the recognition. And so for me, through every religion I explored, when I came to your books, it was just the pure jewel of truth, which is light. And so thank you.
You're very welcome. I feel privileged to have been able to bring this information through. And as you say, it's non-denominational. It's not dependent on any religious confines. It is simply what we are. And of course, religion and the divine and the spiritual are not really the same thing at all. And there is no control in the books. It is simply a matter of saying, this is what you are, this is what you're capable of. But one of the big messages, and talking about light, is that we have free will in all this, and that we have personal responsibility, and that it is up to each of us to make that difference to ourselves, and make that difference to the world if we so wish. And that the spiritual information is put at our doorstep, as it were, via the communications. But it's entirely up to us whether we take up that information and run with it. So it's an entirely free system of spirituality. And I think that's very important. We're not trying to coerce anyone. We're not trying to force anyone to believe anything. I think one of the messages that's coming through this afternoon is that you know when you've read the communications, you know from within that you have touched something that is a universal and eternal truth. And as Joseph says, we had to put down the words exactly as he said them. And he said the reason for that is because there is a message beneath the words. And we have many readers who say, it's a strange thing, but I've read the books 3 or 4 or 5 times, and each time I read them, there's something new in there. It's the same words, but it means something different to me. And so there is a vibration that has been infused into the words to bring across the message. It's almost as though it entertains the mind whilst it speaks to the heart.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Karen and Michael.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. And thank you for the lovely view. That looks wonderful.
Yeah, so that's the Pacific Ocean. She's in
Wow.
a beach area there, Solano Beach near Los Angeles. So Michael, we have Layla would like to make another comment. She can unmute herself, and you're up, Layla.
Hi, Layla.
Hi. Now, what comment did I make? I know I made a comment. Oh, okay. So you've had tea and crumpets with Persian gentlemen after sleeping. I mean, what do we do? Where do we go when we're sleeping?
Well, we can, if we are unbound, I mean, there are ways that we lock ourselves into the physical body, aren't there? You know, if we've eaten too much, then sometimes we just stand by ourselves during the night. If we've drunk too much, or we're worried about things, or illness has the same effect on us, and we can stand by our physical body still connected to it, but we don't get very far. But if we are free to travel, then, for example, I spoke to my father, or rather, my father spoke to me last week in a dream. So I went to talk to my father. We visit our home, we visit the sphere that we vibrate, that we harmonize with vibrationally. We visit our greater family, because soul groups like Joseph's are true family. We might have 100 relatives on earth, but we can have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million within the spiritual realms that are part of our soul group. So we go for tuition. I know sometimes when I've been out at night, because there is a gap in my sleep. We have an internal clock, don't we? We know how long we've been sleeping. We get a feeling for how long we've been sleeping. When I've been to a higher vibration, there's a gap. That internal clock is interrupted because I've gone outside of this reality, in inverted commas, this illusion. And so we visit the spiritual realms. We can visit areas around this world if we wish to. We can go to other countries if we wish to. We can go wherever we want within the limits of our vibration. We are always limited by the ceiling of our current vibration. For example, when we pass over, we are entitled to move into the sphere that resonates with the vibrational rate of our soul, but no higher until we have further refined that vibrational rate, which gains us access to higher spheres. So that at night, we can go to the sphere that we are harmonizing with currently, but we can't progress beyond that sphere. So we're all travelers at night. We all go out to the spiritual realms, unless we have bedded ourselves into our physical bodies through overuse or fatigue within those physical bodies.
Thank you, Michael. And Layla says thank you as well. So you have published 8 books in many different media, in ebooks, good old paperbacks, which I love because then I can highlight them easily and go back and find those important segments in different languages. But of all your books, what is the most popular, and why do you think that would be?
The most popular is Your Life After Death. And I think the reason for that is twofold. One, we're all going along that road. Each of us is going to leave this world at some stage. And I think the second reason is that a lot of people, as they grow a little older, seek out insurance. They might say, I don't believe in anything, there's nothing after death. And then they'll visit a church and talk to the priest or make friends with the priest, you know. It's a little bit of insurance. And so that is our most popular book. The second most popular book is The Fall, but it still doesn't get out in the quantities that I would like it to get out, which is why we're putting it on YouTube, because we feel that everybody should have this information at this time. And of course, with Your Life After Death, many people who buy it will say to us, my father's just died, or my partner's just died, and I want to know where they've gone to. And so it's a rich source of comfort. We know that through the testimonials that we get. So that's the most popular. What's the least popular? Probably From Here to Infinity, strangely. Now, for me, that's a very interesting book because it tells us what we are eventually capable of doing. And it connects us with the infinity that is within us. And it describes infinity, although infinity is a very difficult concept to shoehorn into the written word. But there is bliss in infinity. And some of the things that Joseph describes in that book are wonderful. And I can't wait. But I think once people have looked at The Fall and looked at Your Life After Death, then they have to be a true spiritual seeker to want to read the other books. Another popular book is Many Voices, One Mission, because that collects the viewpoints of and acquaints readers with many of the guiding influences from the group soul. So you get to know the Persian gentleman a little better. You get to know Silver Star a little better. And Joseph's in there as well. He came through on a lecture. There was Jane and Tony and myself, and we were up in the Lake District, which is a beautiful part of England. And we were on a country road leading up a hill, and there wasn't a soul for miles. And immediately Joseph began to speak. People kept coming by. Hello, how are you this morning? And I'm trying desperately to bring through Joseph's information. So it was a lecture that was given on the move. I think we eventually ended up in the middle of a field. We climbed over a fence. We were in the middle of a field, and then we were visited by Silver Star, who had something to say as well.
That's fascinating. Yes, after I read Your Life After Death, it gave me new perspective, and it resonated so well. And one of the things that resonated with me the most was the idea that I don't have to come back here. In fact, it's repeated throughout, don't come back here.
Yes.
So why is that message so pervasive through the books?
Reincarnation was always a worry for me as a younger person. I couldn't understand why I would be forced to repeat life after life after life after life, etc., etc. But Joseph described it as a pull from the earth. There is a universal constant, and it is free will. We are part of the divine, and we are free to act however we want to act. Now, if free will is a constant, why wouldn't free will apply to reincarnation? And that made total sense to me. So that's the first part of the equation. We're not trapped in a loop, except if we want to be trapped in a loop. And you would think, well, why would anyone want to come back to this earth as it is? It's such a foreboding place at present. And the answer to that is because many souls haven't investigated life after death, haven't investigated the possibility of there being anything else, and are so consumed by the attractions as they see them of this earth that when they move on to the next stage of their existence and are greeted by guides and by spirits who try to persuade them that the way forward is through the spiritual cleansing spheres, they say, no, I want to go back to earth. No, I enjoy the beer, I enjoy the food, I enjoy the big television, I enjoy the roller coaster, I enjoy the business, or whatever it is. But the pull, because they haven't addressed their spirituality of the earth, is greater than the pull of moving onwards through the cleansing spheres, through the various heavens, if you like, that lead out into infinity. So it's a very good question, and it brings us back to why the earth is as it is. It's because we keep reinvesting in the same limited values. Whereas if we reconnected with our angelic values and our angelic perspective, the world would be put into perspective, and we would want to move on and allow this planet to regenerate itself, to become the paradise and the angelic playground it once was, and to allow other souls free from the effects of the fall to visit this beautiful sphere and to pass through it for the right reasons, to gain experience that they take back in full knowledge to the angelic host and to divinity.
Thank you, Michael. And that really changed my perspective. So I told Bob, okay, I'm going to get a little plaque or tattoo or something that says, oh, come back here. You know, you don't come back here, because I'm tired. This is the thing that's given me hope that, I'd like to go through those cleansing spheres and raise a vibration. So quickly, how does one raise their vibration? You say we're here and we can only go as far as our soul's vibration is. Well, I want to go to the top.
It is the same equation, the same thing that we've been talking about today, and it is to reconnect with our spiritual energies. Once we reconnect with our spiritual energies, our perspective changes, and the things that we perhaps held dear before we reconnected with our spiritual energies suddenly lose their attraction, or we see through them. It's a strange thing, but once you, as everyone attending this meeting will, I think, agree, once you set your feet on the spiritual road, you can't take them off. But it is, from the perspective of the physical mind, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you change, but it's a curse because you cannot fit back into society as you did before you started to investigate your spirituality. You are a jigsaw piece that no longer fits. And so you work to illustrate to other souls that there is a different way. You try, as I think as Christian said, there is this imperative to illuminate all souls. And it is not frustrating, but saddening when you can't immediately do that. And what we have to do is to illuminate the souls that are ready for illumination. And by doing that, we pull up, we raise the vibrations of ourselves and those souls who are ready to have their vibrations raised. And by doing that, because we are all one organism, we pull up the souls that are not quite ready to raise their vibration to a point where they are. And so we have to address those who are ready to listen to the message and act upon the spiritual message. It is pointless to address those who don't want to listen. We can surround them with light, and that's the most powerful thing we can do. But it is pointless to engage in debate with them at this stage because they can't see. It's not that they won't see, they can't see until their vibrations have been lifted to a certain extent. So we address those who are ready to remember. In addressing those who are ready to remember and allowing them to remember, they lift up the next tier, as it were, and then those souls become ready to remember. And that's the process of getting everyone out of the effects of the fall.
Well, thank you. Well, talk about coming back in. Let's say that a soul, we pick our family, we pick our situation, I understand, we get counsel before we come here. And then we're coming in and landing, but let's say the pregnancy, one reason or another, is terminated. Then what happens to that soul? Do they just find another entry point, or?
Well, with my medium's hat on, from the point of view of talking to relatives that have gone on and reconnecting them with their relatives on Earth, I have, on occasion, on many occasions, seen children come in. You'll see a child walk in through the door, and you describe the child, and their mother says, "Oh, that's my child, I lost my child." And then, once that recognition has taken place, that child will morph, will change into the most beautiful light, the most beautiful spirit that you've ever seen, and say, "Tell my mother, that's who I am now." And I am who I am now as a result of touching the earth for that short amount of time. There wasn't much that I needed to do. So I did what I needed to do. There was no reason for me to stay on earth. And so I returned to the heaven worlds, to the spirit world. And so no experience is lost. It's just that we can have far better experiences by going through the cleansing spheres than we can by coming back to earth and allowing that earthly life to pull back at us. Because if we look at the lives of everyone, they say that into every life a little rain must fall, but it's considerably more than a little rain, isn't it? It's not a happy life. It is a life where we can create our own internal happiness and our own light. But the challenges of this life are very severe. And it's sad that we choose to go through this life when we don't have to, when there are more light-filled and more joyous and more bliss-filled alternatives.
Thank you, Michael. It's very helpful. I'm going to read just a few comments. We've kind of run out of time, but I want to let you know that Christian says, I'm just read all three of these. Why is that vital message not coming out more in the world, as there is really not much time left? And related to that, Layla said, I wish I could share Joseph and have the people be receptive right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I want to do now, the little bit of time that we have left, if you want to comment on that, that's fine. But I want to make sure that everyone knows how to be a part of spreading this word and where they can reach you and the teachings of Joseph and the Soul Group.
At this time, it's vitally important that we boost our YouTube channel. Because people can subscribe for free, of course, and then they can decide for themselves in their own good time whether they think the Joseph message is for them. So we need people to subscribe to that channel and to support us. We, of course, need people to read the books. That's our primary thrust, to get people to read the books. But if we can open a little chink with people via the YouTube channel, that would be great. And it's the Joseph Communications. So we need your support on that. We need people to join us for the light sending days that we put together on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, to join together during the times that are illustrated on our Facebook pages, and to connect in spirit with Joseph's Soul Group, with the Band of Light, and with all those other souls who across the earth who are connecting with us, to generate this huge flame of light and send it out into the world. So that's very important for people to do. If they want to know more about the Joseph Communications, if they're new to them, or if they want the books, of course, they can go to our websites, thejosephcommunications.co.uk and thejosephcommunications.com, or they can visit Amazon. And most of the books, with the exception of Many Voices, because it had so many different guides in it, are available as audiobooks, as ebooks, and as paperbacks. So there's a choice of whichever way you experience the books too. And get the message out. Get the message out. It's not for us. It's not for the Band of Light. It's for the world. It's for every soul. I think we all here gathered today can agree that we are saddened by the current state of the world. And we're saddened because things could be turned round today if we would only embrace our spirituality, and if we would only bring spiritual values into all our decisions, instead of all this head mind stuff. If we can get people to think from here, things will change now.
Well, I would like to ask everyone to unmute and give some thanks to Michael for this amazing time together. It's really been an honor to have you here, Michael. I know that it's very difficult to be a trance medium. It takes, I don't know if people realize that after Michael does a trance session, it can take him up to a week to recover physically. So, and getting that head mind working too, right? Those synapses doing what they're supposed to, Michael?
Sorry, yes, to get the synapses to do what they're supposed to, at least a week. So there's been 100 trance sessions, or around 100, so that's 100 weeks out of my life thus far. But if we can get things moving, if we can get things to change, it's all been worth it.
Well, thank you so much. And I invite everyone to use your social media tools to help get the message out. It's up to us. So
Yes.
just not the Band of Light, 4 people that have been working for 15 years. It's up to all of us. So I encourage you, this is their mission as well as our personal mission. I invite it to be a part of your mission, perhaps, if it resonates with you.